Now on the Democratic side, you have the infrastructure built to pick the most corporate-friendly, donor-friendly candidate who has the least likelihood of winning, okay? So that's why I need Democratic voters to wake up. Wake up. They're purposely picking the worst candidate for you so they can get richer. You've got to go populist to win. Look at Trump. He won as a guy running, whether he actually is or not, running on populism.
Yeah, he ran on everything you espouse. That's a question I have for you. It's like you, on Trump and populism versus establishment, you rail against Trump as an existential threat, but most of his appeal is the same as yours. And it's like, but you're saying you're saying he's a sheep in wolf's clothing here.
Yeah, 100%.
And look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because when my friend was like, well, married women won't be able to vote, I was like, before you get freaked out about this, did you actually read it? And with that said, I would never have looked at the budget. I would have been like, look at all this corruption that they're rooting out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have looked.
So Trump, I thought Trump was running right all the way back in 2015. So I think Trump is a legendary con man. And I've talked a little bit about that. We could talk more about, I want to talk more about that. But as I saw it, you have to separate out what you think of their policies and what you do political analysis, right?
Okay.
My policy.
Explain the difference. I'm sorry.
Policy analysis is, I don't think Donald Trump means anything he's saying. I think he's just going to pass giant tax cuts for the rich.
Got it.
And in the first term, that's exactly what he did.
I understand.
His number one accomplishment was bringing corporate taxes from 35 to 21.
I understand.
And then he forgot to do anything else. And at the end, he panicked about the wall. He's like, oh, right, I meant to build a wall. And then in the last 6 months, he tried to build a little piece of the wall because it was the populist campaign promise that he had made.
Okay.
But he largely just passed tax cuts. So I don't like him on policy at all on the things that he does.
Okay.
But on political analysis, when he stood on that debate stage around, I think it was around October of 2015, if I'm not mistaken, and he said, I gave all these guys money, and then they did whatever I told them. I'm like, that's it, he's going to win. Okay. And at the time,
I remember that. And they talked about tax loopholes that all the rich use because he uses them.
Yeah. Jillian, you have to remember, at the time I've said these things in 2013, when Bernie was polling at 1%, I said, Bernie can beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, 3 years later. Everybody's like, you're nuts. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. No way that's going to happen.
Right.
And he came within a couple of points of beating her. Now in Trump, at the time, Trump's actually polling well. So take credit away from me because he's already polling really well. So it's not that hard to see. But everyone's in their bubble. Yeah. So the Republican establishment is thinking, this bozo reality talk show host. No, they're going to pick Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio.
100.
Right.
I thought so too.
Right. They're not going to pick this like Donald Trump, right?
Yes.
Democratic establishment is thinking the same thing. Mainstream media is thinking the same thing. So when I say Donald Trump is going to win the Republican primary in October of 2015,
people think you're crazy.
We're still 3 months out from a single vote being cast, right? And they're like, you're nuts. Yeah, it's never going to happen because he's just... American people want experienced politicians. I'm like, on which planet? Not the American people that I know on this planet. They hate the politicians. They're like, oh, that's ridiculous. Everybody.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.